ancient magi grouped humanity into 12 different types of people that were reflected by the arbitrary 12 different zodiacal signs in the constellations in the heavens. There could be so many different systems of categorizing and understanding human behavior, but this is one that seemed to have stuck. The theory that we propose and we postulate is that the Magi found that these 12 types of people represented all that humanity was capable of, all of the strengths from each sign which humanity was capable of achieving, and all of the weaknesses that humanity was capable of overcoming. And if you were able to overcome all the weaknesses of all 12 zodiacal signs and assimilate the strengths of all 12 of the zodiacal signs, you would be perfect. And that is a synonym for what the Buddhists might call enlightened. The theory continues that in order to do this through the teaching method, which is natural, called cause and effect, because we are left to our own devices, due to the fact that nature has everything built into itself, like we've discussed many times before, we will learn to repeat certain behaviors and we will learn to avoid certain behaviors, such as if you touch something hot and it burns, you will remember not to touch that hot thing again. So just through the cause and effect way of learning things, we could assimilate all the strengths and overcome all these weaknesses, but it was postulated that this would take many lifetimes to do. So the Magi, according to our legends, said, let's find a way that we can speed this up so that a person could overcome all the weaknesses and assimilate all the strengths, maybe even in one lifetime. And that is how they developed the process which we call initiation. There are many ways, and that there are many initiatory paths. And they're all valid. Well, not all of them. Some of them are very valid, and some of them are garbage. But I'm not gonna cast stones and tell you which are which. But the major initiatory paths, we're all aware of those. And a lot of them, and they work. They all work. So, but it takes dedication on the part of the student. It's not the initiatory path that has some kind of magic. It's a series of practices that help you to accelerate your progress through these zodiacal signs. There's seven levels of evolution within each sign of the zodiac. And this is just scratching the surface to talking about what is commonly called esoteric astrology. And if you know anything about the Theosophical Society, they get really into this over there. Or I think Alice Bailey does too. I mean, there's several, the teachings of the 7 rays and things like that. I don't know if you're familiar with that, but within each sign, there are 7 different evolutionary levels, also known as 7 wills or 7 rays, are another way that they are talked about. So it's a very deep subject, this astrology stuff. And without ever talking about the influences of the planets on the Earth, you could do a lot just studying astrology by understanding the psychological principles deep within each sign and each planet. When you were born, if you were to take a snapshot, 360-degree snapshot of what the zodiacal wheel looked like at that moment, at that exact moment in time, that is your birth chart based on where you were born and what moment you were born. So your astrology chart, your natal chart, represents you. It's so unique. It's like your fingerprint. Now, I was born, one of my best friends was born 2 hours. Well, I wouldn't say she's my best friend anymore because I haven't seen her in years, but we were close for a while. She was actually my best friend's daughter, but we were born 2 hours apart. And we were alike in a lot of ways, But those 2 hours made a huge difference in that my ascendant, say I'm an Aries, okay, but my ascendant is Aquarius. Her ascendant was Capricorn. Night and day, hello. We were very different because not only was her ascendant different, but that made all of the planets that we had even in common in the different signs fall in different houses in her astrology chart. So even though we had a lot of similarities, those similarities express themselves extremely differently. And if you looked at her chart, she was just right on the money to what her chart said, just like I am, if you read my chart. Now, this gets into, well, so is everything fated? No, that's not what we're saying at all, that everything's fated. It means that there are certain influences that are very strong. You know that some people are born with certain tendencies. Some people are born with certain talents. Some people are born with certain strengths. Some people are born with certain weaknesses. You can't deny that. Astrology is just one way of looking at that. It's not the only way, but it's a great way of looking at that. It's like you can look at it objectively and say, "Oh, I see. This is the stuff that you came in here with, and this is what you're fighting against, and this is what's easier for you." And so everybody has their own, what we would say, personalized curriculum. Everybody's got their own stuff that they're working on. They've got their own things that are their talents, and they've got their own sort of crosses to bear, if you will. But the idea is not that you're stuck with those weaknesses or with those issues, that you're there to learn from them and overcome them. And just like, now this is the thing, because people talk about, and I don't want to get too technical for you people that don't understand astrology, but if you look at a lot of the old-fashioned astrology manuals, they are very unenlightened, some of them are, the way they are written. They talk about aspects as some of them being benefic and some of them being malefic. Well, for instance, there's the aspect called the square. They say, well, that's a malefic aspect. Well, yes and no. I mean, if you want to use that term, fine. But the square, even though it causes some real challenges for that person, that is also their greatest strengths and blessings are in there, because there's no aspect that's as powerful as a square. Now, I've got a grand square in my chart, which a lot of astrologers that don't understand astrology from the point of view of what we talk about it as, they would look at my chart and say, "Oh dear, ooh, yeah, your life is really hard." Well, it could be really hard. My life could be really hard, except for the fact that I know that it's there. I'm ready for it. And so just like, when somebody breaks a bone, when the bone heals, that part of the bone where it's healed is actually stronger than the rest of the bone. When somebody has like some surgery, the scar tissue comes together, okay? And then that scar tissue actually is stronger than the surrounding tissue. So if you've got some sort of problem in your life that you're overcoming and that you're working on, that actually becomes your strength, not your weakness. That becomes your strength. The stuff that's easy for you, you sort of, a lot of times you take for granted. You don't even think about it. You don't even question it. You just take it for granted, right? So that's where we're coming from with astrology is it's a way of objectively looking at your life, just looking at your life and seeing what's working and what's easiest for you and what's a challenge for you and where the blessings are in that, where the hidden blessings are in that. Okay, and in another way, and that's just, it's real precursory. This is not, astrology is a very deep science. You can take lifetimes of studying just astrology. And there are people they're good at it, and that's what they do, is astrology. But the other thing about astrology from our perspective is the ages. We talk about the ages of humanity, the ages of the earth. I'm not going to go into a lot of the technical stuff, but every 2,000 years or so, we start a new age. Like we're coming out. Everybody's heard of the dawning of the age of Aquarius, right? Well, we are in the dawning of the age of Aquarius. The reason why it's been the dawning of the age of Aquarius, it seems like for a long time, is because the ages move very slowly. We are leaving Pisces and we are entering Aquarius. And you can see that because Pisces, the motto for Pisces is I believe. The motto for Aquarius is I know, right? So the more we leave Pisces and the more we get into Aquarius, the more we get things like technology and the computers become faster. And like our electronic book readers now are becoming like you can get a book in a second. You can read. You can no. These podcasts are popping up all over the place. Knowledge is being shared everywhere. And it's just going to get more and more of that. Pretty soon, I think we're going to get to the point where we don't even need any technology. We're going to get to the point where we just know because we know. Our psychic technology is going to become something that's a given. And so what I'm noticing now is there is a phenomenon that occurs because when an old system has to die and a new system is being born, the old system does not like to die willingly. It does not like to die willingly. Pisces is not happy dying in certain people's psyches, and they are hanging on to the old. I don't know if anybody read, I think it was Tuesday's New York Times. There was an op-ed piece by Judith Warner called The Lure of Opulent Desolation. It's talking about how right now everybody's kind of getting obsessed with, you see an obsession with sort of like the old way of the 50s. Of the nuclear family and all of that, and there the soccer mom phenomenon is sort of like everybody's sort of trying to and you see it with the shows like Mad Men and people are kind of becoming obsessed with the 50s and early 60s, and I think that is just it's indicative of the fact that there are parts of our culture and our collective psyche where we dig our heels in and we're saying, okay, it's this technology is great, growth is great, progress is great, but enough already. This is moving too fast. I don't want to leave Pisces so fast. You see that a lot with the fundamentalist Christianity, because remember, Christianity is the age of Pisces. That is their religion. The idea that religion could be dying, forget that. And, again, there's nothing wrong with Christianity, but you can see a lot of in the fundamentalism of it where they're hanging on for dear life and they don't want to let it go because, when it's just like when a loved one is dying and you are not you haven't gotten to the acceptance stage of it yet. You're no. We're going to try this and we're going to try that. We're going to keep you alive. We're going to keep you alive. Everything's going to be fine. And that's kind of what I see happening a lot of times with these religious constructs of the age of Pisces. They don't want to die willingly. They don't want to let it go. They don't want to evolve because they don't want to see that Jesus talked about the second coming of Christ, and he was talking about what's happening now, the dawning of the new age of Aquarius. The second coming of Christ esoterically means enlightenment, our own becoming. Now, it's there's somebody else was talking about something on the discussion forum about how the Dalai Lama is going to forego enlightenment until everybody's enlightened. Something like that. I could be paraphrasing it and getting it wrong. But it's exactly the same concept. Perfected beings of former races return to the earth in order to teach the old religion to the savages and help them gain perfection. That is the same idea. Is that there the concept is that when you get to the state of enlightenment or evolve, you're evolved, where you are freed from the cycle of death and rebirth, that there is an option for you to stay and help. You don't necessarily move on. That many people are here that are enlightened and that are here to help. And in my opinion, a lot of those people are. I certainly know that that's true just from my own interaction with certain people. I know that there's some people that are here by choice. And those people usually are very, they're not people like me that are kind of like out there teaching necessarily. They're a lot of times they're people that are, like waitresses and dry cleaners and people that are just sort of like helping in the midst of it all. And you know the kind of people that I'm talking about. They're just wise people that without their presence, life would be so much harder. We've all met those people. We have all met those people. And those people, I think, symbolically, it could be said that those people don't have to be here, but they're being here for our benefit. And we're grateful to those people because those are the kinds of people that help us get through. And if you don't know anybody like that, you will. I promise. You just keep your eyes open. They're out there. They're out there. That the world is so much better because of these enlightened souls that are in our midst, and that's what we want to become. That's the whole idea of this whole kind of study. Is not that we're going to belong to some kind of cult or some kind of cool group or some kind of esoteric society. It doesn't matter what the form is. It so doesn't matter because Aquarius doesn't care about form. I mean, and it's not that form isn't helpful. Of course it is. Of course it's helpful. But the idea behind it, the concept behind all of this stuff, and I know I'm getting kind of off the track of astrology, but let me just get this out, is, and I've talked about this before, that the concept of a spiritual underground, that we want to become like a spiritual underground, like the white blood cells, so that our presence helps things along. Our presence helps bring more love into this world, helps bring more light, helps us to birth the so-called new age, the next thing, helps us through the birth and death process that we're experiencing right now, because we are on a cusp. We are experiencing death and birth at the same time. That's what's so exciting about these times, and what can be so scary. Things rise and fall, of course. Things rise and fall. But if we have the right mentality and we understand, this is where astrology really helps. If you have the right understanding, you can see, this is not the end of the world. It's just the end of the world as we know it. Because there's something much better on the other side of it. We just need to get through this. We just need to help each other get through this. Because what's on the other side of this is much better than a cusp phenomenon. The age of Aquarius is definitely going to be much more of an easy home for those of us who are born at this in these times, because it's what we're born to. It's what we're here to do. We're going to become less and less comfortable with the old, outmoded ideas of Pisces, and I know that that's why we are attracted to things like the craft, to things like magic, is because we know that it's our responsibility not to go to some person and ask them to interpret some Bible for us and to follow and believe, but we need to know for ourselves. We need to have our own sense of understanding of spiritual principle, metaphysical principle in the world. There was also asked about predictive astrology. Can astrology be used as for predictions? Yes, it can, actually, because if you think about it, influences, if you're able to, just like you can forecast the weather, it's not always accurate, but you can say, there's a category 5 hurricane, it's on its way, get out. You can do the same thing with astrology. You can say, there's definitely there's got a major square right now, and it's moving through, and it's going to be moving through your second house. So be careful you're spending. Be careful you're spending, because it's going right through that second house. Batten down the hatches with your money, and don't overspend. And if you didn't know better, you didn't know about that, and you just started spending, you might be in a problem. But that's why if you use any kind of good astrologer, you need to find an enlightened one who understands how to talk to you like that, rather than giving you gloom and doom and fatalistic kinds of predictions, which are helpful to no one, right? So the other kind of there's also another kind of predictive astrology, which is more like divination, which is divination we can talk about on another podcast, but it's called horary astrology, where you actually, it's kind of like a divination where at the moment that you ask the question, you cast a chart, and then you interpret that chart. And there's very specific methods for interpreting a horary chart, so that you can interpret those aspects and give an answer to the question. So there is a divinatory side to astrology as well. And then the esoteric astrology, the seven rays in astrology, that is also called soul astrology, where it's not just the personality, which is your basic natal astrology. You're talking about where your soul is and what this lifetime represents to you, and where you are in your cycle of births and rebirths. So there's a lot of different branches of astrology. They're all very fascinating. It's not necessary for you to become a master of astrology, but I do recommend that everybody at least understand what the 12 signs of the zodiac are and what they represent, and to understand what the planets of our solar system are and what they represent. Because not only are they helpful astrologically, but they're helpful also in understanding yourself psychologically, and they are of extreme help when you're working magic, because because using the powers of the planets and the signs magically, you're tapping into, again, we talk about this a lot, archetypes within your deep mind, which are part of the collective unconscious, and you're able to, when you tap into those planetary archetypes, you're able to effect change very, very dramatically. It's quite amazing. Love and blessings always.